Hazelborough Forest in Northampton, and a class of children from nearby Banbury are on a day's outing to look closely at some of the textures, shapes and patterns in the woodland. Three of the boys begin their study in the middle of a larch wood. They're looking particularly at the way the branches of the trees hang down and at the patterns they make against the light. Quick charcoal sketches will help to remind them later of those patterns.
When you get down into the oak plantation, you'll find that it's much, much easier to do. Right up to the top. There's one or two loose bits of bark, so I think you could take a loose piece with you, clip it to that rubbing, all right?
Bark rubbing is another way of taking patterns from the forest. Rubbing firmly with the thick wax crayons makes marks on the paper only when it touches the raised parts of the bark underneath. Another group of girls have been looking at the way the bracken grows between the trees. Now they're collecting some bracken leaves to take back to the classroom. Another chance for some drawing. This time, the shapes and patterns of the logs in the woodpile. And another good surface on which to make rubbings, the sawn-off tree stumps. Back at school, the class will try different ways of picturing some of the patterns they've seen in the forest.
Let's have some more red on here. You've got your newspaper all screwed up ready. Just pick it up here, and before you put any more dark colour on, get some of the red on. Now think, we need this line to come down here, and we're concentrating on this bit here. Come on, put a blob on there. Just blob it down. Right. Now then, think of that line and go blobbing along there. Off you go. That's it. Fine. Okay. Now those red pieces are really going to show up. Carry on.
With their teacher, Mrs. Palach, to help, Mark, David and Derek are making a dab painting of a bark pattern, using sponges and screwed up newspaper to dab paint onto the paper.
And keep plenty of colour on your tile.
Getting the paint to the right thickness and mixing the colours well is very important if the final painting is to be a success. So as to make it stand up off the paper, the paint they're using is made especially thick by mixing it with cellulose paste.
I'll do the darkness here, shall I?
David explains how they worked.
I did a picture of bark with Mark and Derek. The sponge printing made it a rough texture and the paper printing made it bumpy. And when you slid away from it, it looked really like bark. Like that, just tiny, just about one. That's it.
Nadia, Anne and Tracy are trying to make a very different sort of pattern, using some bracken leaves they brought back from the forest.
Okay, get your blobbing.
They're using lino printing ink, and that has to be mixed in the same way as paint if they're going to produce the various natural colours, greens and browns, of the bracken.
A lot of work to do on that before you get that brown. Now what are you going to have to add? Look at the way it's going now. What are you going to have to add to get the brown colour?
No, make it lighter. Yeah, orange.
Now keep it all together in the same place.
The secret is not to have too much ink on the roller and to spread it evenly all over the leaf. The girls tested their pattern out on paper first, but now they're printing direct onto a length of white cloth. On another table in the classroom, Daniel, Rachel and Jennifer are also making a pattern of bark. But there's no need for paint or ink. They're working on a collage, using scraps of material, leather, felt, string and a lot of glue.
Just fits. Where's your shape? Oh, you just go down.
They made a rough outline in pencil before they started of the pattern they wanted. Now they have to find contrasting materials to use so that it'll look like the bark of a tree.
But I think you ought to fill these up as you go along, because otherwise you'll forget which bit you have to have. Now keep your eyes to a certain extent on the bark itself. Look, you've got light ends and dark ends. I think we need to lighten it up a bit, so don't go and put too much darkness down here. Gradually get lighter and lighter.
Making a collage like this means breaking a picture or pattern into lots of separate parts, each of which will have a colour of its own. You can't mix colours together like paint. Another job that involves breaking a picture down into lots of jigsaw pieces, the making of stained glass windows. Just like the bark collage, the design for a window begins with an outline drawing, in this case, one of St. Michael. Joseph Nutchins has been designing and making windows for over 60 years. When his drawing is complete, he must decide how many separate pieces and colours of glass it'll take to make the picture. The main lines of the picture are then transferred to a large sheet of clear glass, and the choosing and cutting of the coloured glass pieces can begin. Joseph makes it look very easy, cutting pieces of glass to the right size without even using a ruler. But of course, it's very skilled work. Glass is expensive, and he can't afford to waste too much or find later that the pieces won't fit. Piece by piece, the window is laid out like a large jigsaw. When they're all in place, they'll be glued together, ready for the next stage. Now all the glass is in place, the fine details of the picture can be painted on. When all the painting and colouring has been done, the window will be fired in an oven so that the stains and paint are baked onto the glass. When that's done, strips of lead are soldered into position around the glass to hold all the pieces firmly together. The window is now solid, complete, and ready to face the light. Another place to look for patterns and shapes. The seashore. During half-term, one group of children from Rythrop School in Banbury went on a field study trip to North Devon and visited the beach at Porlock Weir. One activity was to collect up whatever natural objects they could find, driftwood, seaweed and so on, and have a go at beach sculpture. Craig quickly made what he called a hedgehog, using stones and spiky driftwood, and sat down to make a charcoal sketch of his creation.
Oh, ouch. Okay, I'll hold it now, you wedge it round. Good, now it's beginning to take a bit more shape. It's getting a bit red and grey. Are there any other colours around here that you can use? Green.
Two other boys decided on a stone pile for their sculpture. It wasn't just a matter of piling up stones by chance. They tried carefully to select different colours and shapes so that their pile wouldn't look out of place on the beach.
Right, now then, let's have a look at it. It hasn't got an end. Do you think it needs an end? Or is it the...
Another group concentrated on using seaweed and driftwood that had been washed up onto the beach. The idea wasn't necessarily to make something that you could put a name to, but to create pleasing shapes and patterns.
Today we went to Porlock Beach. Everyone was making a sculpture. We hauled giant pieces of driftwood along the stony beach. It was not very nice because the wood bits were sticky. When we collected the big stones, they were heavy. There was some seaweed on the stick-like thing. Everyone called them triffids. Then someone shouted, "It looks like a sea monster." We thought that was a good comment about our sculpture. When the tide comes in, our sculptures will probably be washed out to sea, apart from a little bit, and come upon a different beach. I thought the sea would have a job trying to get a massive barge to float away to another beach.
And I think that line of stones is very important.
From more pieces of driftwood came another sculpture that turned out, when arranged on the breakwater, to look just like a horse's head. Kerry wrote a poem about it.
Horsehead, this dead log on the beach, like a horse's head. It's been tossing on the sea, going where I cannot be. No bird sits on this leafless tree, but seaweed bladderwrapped. The old tree had bent itself over like a person with a bent back, but no one since it has drowned in the sea. Now it shows an eye. In that eye is a showing of life a long time ago. But we found it, we used it, the horsehead we will never forget.
Back at school in Banbury, all the patterns and shapes seen on the beach are used as the basis of large paintings in the classroom. And some of the driftwood found was brought back for others to look at and draw. Driftwood, if it's been in the sea any time, has usually been washed smooth. There's no bark, but when it dries out, there's some interesting patterns to look at.
It's got to be in the background. Shows it in the background.
Finished, I have.
Derek and Danny are putting the finishing touches to another large group painting on the theme of stones. They've chosen to use chalk and charcoal for their part of the picture. It seems to fit the particular stone they're using as a model.
I think that light is near finished, isn't it? I like these circles that you've got here. Put your finger in it. Right, now feel that blob that you've just put some charcoal on. See the difference? That's the eye. That's it. Now you've got it, Danny. That is ideal. Don't do them all, I shouldn't. Now that's beautiful. Don't do that. Where's the fixed it? Now I mean that's really lovely. Yes, it is. Right, now then, you hold it in for a moment. Danny, go up the other end. On the corner, right on the corner. Mind you don't get charcoal fingers all over. Okay, lift it. Good. Right. Back we come.
Another picture for the classroom wall. By looking at and touching the leaves, the trees, the stones around them, the Banbury class have discovered a lot about the patterns and textures of nature. They've discovered, too, a lot of different ways of trying to produce those patterns in their artwork.
If you'd like an order form for notes that accompany this series, please ring the 24-hour number 01 991 8031. Our second programme this morning is Look and Read with the ghost story Dark Towers. That's in 3 minutes.
The children of Wepper Lane School in North Wales are lucky to have a wood close by. They're out today to start work on an art project.
We've now got together to the woods. We have to remember, think hard about the materials you're going to use. But don't forget, look before you put anything down on paper. Okay, off you go. Choose wherever you want to go, but go quietly, all right? Wherever you want to go, you choose your view. Okay. Okay, Andrew, you've got some problems starting, have you? I think the main thing to look, if you look through your viewfinder, okay, what can you see? What's the main thing you can see there now? You can see the stream, can't you? Coming away from that side. So on here, you see a huge rock. Do you see that huge rock there? Yeah?
Yeah.
And above that, you've got the bank on this side here.
Andrew used pencils to draw the stream. I was sketching the rocks. I thought they needed stronger, bolder lines, so I decided to use charcoal.
See, from that joint there, very, very carefully, you can see the lines coming down, and there are several of them, which make up the stalk. It's a bit like bamboo, really, you know, if you break it. And there is one here, can you see? You can see the lines, can't you? In detail, wouldn't notice inside.
Hollow.
It's hollow, that's right, yes. So it's, those lines there give it strength. Part of the pattern, part of the structure of the stalk. Okay, so you have to go with those. And you can draw in the fine details now with a pen. On top of the pencil. Okay, that's great.
Paul and I use chalk. It's crumbly and soft, a bit like David's charcoal. So when Paul had finished his picture, he used a spray to stop it smudging. Paul's picture was a long distance view. I wanted to work close up with some leaves I found. I tried to match my chalks with the different shades and textures of the leaves. Because they're all blotchy, they got lots of different colours in them.
That's fine. Is that enough leaves now, do you think? Yes. Shall we try the screen? Okay. That's fine. It just about fills in the frame, does it? Yeah? Now hopefully, when we put the paint on, it will fill in the gaps in between the leaves. So if you pour some on there, we can squeeze it out. And you hold onto the frame with me. Got the frame. Just pour it on the end there. That's right. Pour it out. That's right. Nice gooey mess, isn't it? Fine. Where's the... Have we got the... That's right. That's fine. So if you squeeze that out, pull it across. Now. That's good. I think we need some more, do we? You put some more down there, Andrew. That's right. Keep spreading that.
Mr. Hughes, Andrew and Colette are making a screen print with leaves they found in the wood.
Can you get it spread out a bit more, do you think? Because that comes through as white, won't it? Yeah. If you don't block it off with that, it'll come through. Good. You can see the leaves coming out, yes indeed. Now, if we can lift it off very, very carefully. You hold on to the paper, shall you? You hold on to the paper there. And we'll see what happens. We peel it off. Oh, we never know what's going to happen. Very exciting, isn't it? Hmm? What's going to happen, I wonder?
It's not.
Put it on one side. That's fine, isn't it? Now, any problems do you think we can improve upon for our next effort?
I think that was too slack, the gauze.
I think the gauze is a bit slack, so maybe we can tighten the gauze a bit. Yes. Do you think that's come out particularly well?
Yes.
And that, yes.
They're the best.
They're certainly the best.
Leaves.
They're the same. That's the same tree. Yes, they have a very nice distinctive edge, don't they?
Andrew and I made our trees out of string. We glued lots of lengths of string onto card, and we found that we could make a pattern like the grain on a piece of wood. You can use string trees for making prints with, but first David wanted to make a rubbing with a wax crayon.
Alan, David, what are you doing? All right. Using the tip of your crayon. Maybe you can use the on the side. On the side, and you can press fairly firm. All right. It comes out. Okay, hold on to the paper. That's right. And you come out. Follow that. All the way. And you have a go. See if you can hold on to your paper fairly tight. That's better.
David and I found some old rollers that had bits of dry glue on them. They made the blotchy pattern, and we thought they'd be good for doing tree trunks and branches. You can get a good idea of leaves if you dab paint on with wet cotton wool.
David's leaves look very summery, but you can blend lots of different colours and shades for other seasons, as you can see from this display of artwork.
Cheryl and I are making cobwebs. We're using string. We decided to make a scene of the woods in the corner of the classroom. Gemma, Paul and Stephen are painting the background. Mr. Hughes helped as well. He found some old clothes to dress as woodsmen.
That's fine, that's marvellous. Can you boys take the paints away? And Gemma, can you get things finally arranged, okay? Then we can have a look what the foreground will look like from a distance afterwards. Okay.
So now the class have got their own wood in the classroom. It's just one way of making a landscape, but there are as many ways as there are artists. In this picture, the land is just as important as the people. They're called Mr. and Mrs. Andrews. The English artist Gainsborough has painted them with their own fields behind them to show how well off they are. Gainsborough painted the cornfield and land stretching away into the distance with so much care that you look just as closely at the background as at Mr. and Mrs. Andrews themselves. In this Indian painting, Radha and Krishna are in a much wilder landscape. The flowers and birds seem part of a pattern, and they're painted very delicately. This is a scene from a love story, and the artist has tried to make the wild and beautiful landscape match the mood. In this picture by the Dutch painter Van Gogh, the cornfield, cypress trees and the sky all seem to be swirling in a high wind. Thick paint and strong brush strokes create movement. How do you think the artist felt when he was painting this picture? How does it make you feel? Although this mountain lake is based on a real place, the Spanish artist Salvador Dali has used his imagination to make it different from an ordinary landscape. Can you use your imagination to think of a reason for the telephone? And what do you notice about the shape of the lake? The dump at the end of the street is the nearest thing to a wood for the children of Burbage School in East London. But in fact, if you look carefully, there's a surprising amount of nature to draw.
There's some eggs growing on this leaf, but I'm not quite sure what they are.
Oh, super, look at them. They're very, very tiny. I wonder what could have laid something quite so small. Have you any idea?
They may have been laid by a caterpillar.
Yes, or even a spider. Perhaps when we get back into class, we could actually use a reference book. Some of them even look as though they're actually growing out of the leaf. They're beautiful. Look at the lovely colours they are.
There wasn't much animal life in the dump, but I found this snail to draw. I used a magnifying glass to look really closely at the pattern on the snail shell.
I tried to match the shade of the purple flower I found in the dump, so I'll be able to get the colour exactly right when I paint it later at school.
Now what you've done is really, really nice, Linda. But I wonder if you've noticed that you've got the colour all the same. Now if you look at the plant, you can see the colour that's right at the base of the seed. Can you see what colour it is?
Reddish orange brownish colour.
Now what colour would you use to brighten that brown?
Just a little bit of yellow.
Right, try some yellow then, see what happens.
I found an interesting bit of wool which was very rough and uneven. I did a rubbing to remind me how it looked. Back in class I started the weaving. The wool was rough, a bit like the bricks.
Dion, Jason and Tony have also started weavings. Theirs are based on plants they saw at the dump.
How's Darren doing? This was the wall that you saw and liked out on the dump, is that right?
Yeah.
Was the wall very even?
No, it was up and down.
So are you actually showing that the mortar is up and down when you're actually weaving it?
It's not even.
It's not even. Well, you're doing very, very well indeed. Well done.
Sometimes you have to mix different colour wools together to get the right colour for the plant you're weaving.
When I'd finished, I cut the weaving off its frame. I'd only seen the back until then. This is the front. I was really pleased it turned out so well.
This is the plant I drew at the dump. I decided to do an applique. That's a picture made from different colour materials. I'm using felt and sequins.
I think you've matched the colours very well with your drawing, haven't you? Right, what colour thread are you going to use to do the veins?
It's a shiny green.
A shiny green. Now, have you had a look at your picture? What colour are the veins in your picture?
It's brown.
They're brown, aren't they? So what would be a better colour to use?
A shiny copper.
Shiny copper would be lovely, wouldn't it?
These three are going to make up books of their writing and art on the subject of nature. But first, they've got to make the covers. Merrick spread orange marbling ink on the surface of the water. Then Tani did the same with some green ink, so there'd be two colours in the marble pattern. You have to swirl the ink around to get a good flowing pattern. Then Kelly and Merrick put sheets of paper on the surface of the water to pick up the ink. After a while, you can lift up the paper and see the pattern.
We used our marble paper to make book covers with. We're going to put some artwork and poems that we wrote into our books.
Merrick's drawing is as important as his poem. Together they make one piece of artwork. Some people wrote descriptions of plants they found, and some wrote poems. My poem is about what it's like to be an ant living in the dump. I am an ant. The walls tower above me like caves. The holes in the caves are my shelter for when it rains. The grass reaches far up into the sky. There are cold, damp tunnels all over the place. Rocks stick out like mountains. There are giant green trees everywhere. A raindrop is a puddle to me. The leaves are a warm blanket for when it's cold.
Ravinder and I decided to do some printing. We used leaves and made a pattern on a piece of cloth that's going to be made into a curtain for the art room.
That's really nice, isn't it?
Yes.
Are you pleased with it?
Yes.
It'll make a lovely curtain, won't it?
We used card and newspaper to make a tree for the art room. Reza painted the trunk and branches brown, and I hung some leaf prints on the twigs.
You think you've got enough on there now, Lisa? How about putting some on this branch? And don't forget, before you hang them on, to crease them along the main veins so that they don't look so flat. All right?
My leaf is from a horse chestnut tree. My leaf is formed by 6 leaves making one big one, and each one is jagged around the outside. All the leaves make a shape of a semicircle. Some of the veins are not facing each other. When I found the leaf, it was just laying on the ground, crushed up under some twigs.
The best thing about the dump was to see all the other people doing drawings of other things. I wanted to draw all of them, but I couldn't because it'd take too long.
It was exciting going down to the woods and looking closely up at things because usually we just run past them. But this time we looked up closely and drew them.
Who